What is up, you guys? My name is Madison. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new. So, I'm sorry I look like this. I had cheer practice today and I had to wake up at like 5 in the morning and practice went until 8:30 and I showered and I just don't feel like putting on makeup, so I'm not going to. But today is just my Bought and Bin series, which is just books that I bought and books that I read. So it's like a haul and a wrap up all together. Because I only bought 2 books this month, which I will talk about first, and then I will talk about books that I'm in the middle of reading or that I started kind of like in the last couple of days and I just didn't finish. And then I'll talk about all the books that I read throughout the month. So I just wanted to say, stay safe, stay educated. Love you guys. Anyway, so let's just get started. So the first book that I bought is The Giver by Lois Lowry. I am going to talk about this later because this was one of the books that I read this month. Obviously, it was really short. I read it in a day, but I'll talk about it more later. And then the other book that I bought this month was Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. And if you haven't heard of this book, it's pretty much just president's son, prince, hate each other, need to have a good social media presence, acting like they're friends, and then they fall in love. That's pretty much the entire concept of this book from what I understand. So there are 3 books that I started that I didn't end up finishing. One I'm actually pretty surprised about, and the other 2 are kind of understandable. So the first book is The Griffin Project by Carrie Mack. I think this was mentioned in my last booktube video. But pretty much summed up, it's a science fiction thriller. Griffin is this just super popular sports guy, you know, the ladies' man, everything like that. And it just follows the story of his sister Fee, or Phoenix. And they're pretty much high class, like everybody loves them. They're called 3 pers, kind of like different classes, but like, and they're at the top. But pretty much what that means is they are allowed to be resurrected or reckoned 3 times before their final like cutoff, and they're just dead forever. And Griffin told Fee that he is responsible for one of her reckons, and she's like, I want my own memories, because she lost her memory. She's like, I want my own memories, I want my own recollection of what happened. And this pretty much just follows that, and then apparently Griffin dies too, but I haven't gotten there yet. The next book is Chasing the North Star by Robert Morgan. This is about a runaway slave named Jonah Williams. Yes, Jonah Williams. Pretty much he gets caught reading and he runs away. But then this is also mentioned in my other video, my TBR, but I did start reading the Hans Christian Andersen's classic fairy tales. This is just exactly what it is. Yeah, Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tales. I've read 3. Now on to books that I have read. This one I technically finished in June, but I finished it like 12:50, and I'm gonna count it because I want to count it and I want to be proud of myself. But I did finish Order of the Phoenix, which I did also mention in my TBR. But I did mention this. I finished it. I'm pretty sure like half of my top 5 favorite Harry Potter characters are dead, but I didn't expect him to die like that. I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't read it, because I know that there are people out there who haven't read it, but not my favorite, not my least favorite. Well, I don't really have a favorite or a least favorite. I haven't read all the books yet. But this is, yeah. Pretty much, if you don't know what Harry Potter is, it's about a little wizard boy who didn't know he was a wizard and becomes a wizard and fights Snake Man. And now we'll finally talk about The Giver by Lois Lowry. I love this book so much. It's a science fiction, and which is, follows the life of Jonas. Yes, the life of Jonas. And pretty much on his 11th birthday, or the 11th like cycle of being in the community, whatever, he's assigned his job and he becomes the receiver. And he was specifically chosen by the receiver, who is now, the giver, to take pretty much every kind of different thing and like have it for himself, and he can't share it with anybody, he can't talk about it. He's not supposed to follow the rules, things like that. And he starts seeing things differently from everybody else, and it scares him, and he tries to change everything for everybody. Next, I have Full Notes from High School by Matt Warren. This is literally written in notes. Our main character-ish, Tara, is the most popular senior there ever apparently, and she was getting ready for college, and then she meets a freshman, falls in love with a freshman. Her boyfriend is dumb, and then it has like her friend and then her friend's friend. I don't know. This just has a lot of different point of views, so like if you don't like that, don't read this. But if you can handle like 3 or 4 like main point of views and then a couple like side points of views, then this will be, I think you'll like it. I have Twerp by Mark Goldblatt. This is written in journal entries to an English teacher, and it follows the life of Julian Twersky and all of like the mistakes he's made. And do I think he's like the bad guy in this? No. Do I think he could have been better? Absolutely. This is just a really cute like coming of age book. Like, don't be the bad guy, you know, and if you see something wrong, tell somebody. I have Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs, or whatever his actual name is, because apparently that's not his actual name. I liked it. It wasn't the best. The pictures still give me nightmares. But pretty much a guy, I don't know his name, Jacob, his grandfather dies, and he sees something, and then he goes to an island, and then he meets a bunch of people, and then a bunch of bad people come, and then more bad people come, and then the good people fight the bad people, and then they go on a journey together. That's like really all I could ever give you. Next, I have Paper Towns by John Green. This is the only John Green book I have ever read in my entire life. And am I going to read more? Yes, because I am a sucker for his character development. And not his like main character development, his side character development. One of my favorite characters, my second favorite character, right under my baby Draco Malfoy, is Lacey Pemberton in this book. I think Margot is dumb. I think, what's his face? Quentin. I think Quentin is also dumb. But I love Lacey. But pretty much, if you didn't know, it's John Green. But if you didn't know, pretty much a girl goes missing, Margot goes missing, leaves clues for Quentin to find her, and he does. Yeah, if that was a spoiler, I'm sorry. It's a contemporary YA love story, so I mean, I figured everybody knew that she's gonna be alive, or that he was gonna find her. Anyway, the next book is Witches and Burn in This One by Amanda Lovelace. This is a series of poems. There's another, sorry, somebody just tweeted something. This is a series of poems. There's like 3 books in this kind of like poem series. I didn't realize that, but I really liked this. I think this is really good. I think that if you're just getting into poetry, then this is something to check out. Like, read Rupi Kaur, read Amanda Lovelace, you know, the most popular poets are definitely good, like, starting off. And I think that's exactly what I felt reading this. And it was really nice, actually. The next book I have is Openly Straight by Bill Coningsburg. I don't know if I've ever posted or talked about my feelings on this book, but I know I've talked about them, whether it got posted or not. I think that this book was a good coming-of-age book. I probably won't reread it. I'll probably check out the sequel from the library if they have it. I'm sure they will, or I'll just listen with it, or I will just listen to it on audio. I think that this book is kind of like, why would you pretend to be something you're not and then lie to people knowing that you'd hurt somebody? That's my question. So anyway, this book is about a guy named Rafe who wants to erase the label of being gay. And he is this popular sports guy, and he is friends with all like the big jock guys on the soccer team, and to erase his label, to become that, he moves across the country from Colorado to New Hampshire, I think. And he just kind of pretends to be something he's not, and I think that's not a very good like thing to implant, because this is a middle grade book. Like, this is clearly or a YA, depending on how you like look at it, because there is like some language in it, but if you erase the language, this would be 100% a middle grade book. Imagine a 13-year-old who is like struggling, being like picking up this book and being like, so I have to hide who I am because I don't want that label. I'm still gonna read the sequel because the sequel is about the other guy in this book, and I like him, and I want to see how he develops his story. But I'm gonna donate that to my library. Same thing with this book, though. I am going to donate this to my library. This is Babysitter's Club, the summer before, by Anna Martin. I'm almost positive I've talked about this book on my channel, but I don't know what I have and what I haven't talked about. But this pretty much follows 4 characters. Stacy, Marianne, Christy, and Claudia. Pretty much Marianne is trying to get out of her strict father's rules because her father is pretty much manipulating her because her mom died and doesn't want to lose her too. Stacy is moving from New York. Christy is finding a single mom with a bad boyfriend. And Claudia, she got a boyfriend and he ditched her. But pretty much what happens is they're all in 7th grade. It's all like the summer before 7th grade. And they're kind of like getting their life together and like noticing things that they hadn't noticed before. And yeah, next 2 books, I guess, follow another book in here that would probably be the last book I talk about, or one of the last books that I talk about. But they're both, what's what I'm looking for? Collector's books from the Disney Descendants movies or the Isle of the Lost book series, depending on how you want to look at it. But I have Mouse Spellbook and Mouse Journal, or Mouse Diary, my bad. Both are adapted by Tina McLeaf, I think that's how you say her name. But this is literally like the diary of a teenage girl who just wants to make her mother proud. And this is kind of like the diary of like all of the bad kids who were on the Isle of the Lost. They're the guys who played them. There's Cameron Boyce right there. Yeah. Anyway, there are also like spells and like a whole bunch of different things in here, and I mean it was a fun read. Like, it was just fun, and that's why I read them. The next book I have is also a collector's book, and it is Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. It says Newt Scamander, but it's not my Newt Scamander because he doesn't exist, unfortunately. But I'm pretty sure J.K. Rowling wrote this as well. Yeah, she wrote this book as well. It literally is just like a textbook, but in 87 pages. Unless like this book is like secretly magical and can like expand with a spell. The next book I have is The Maze Runner by James Dashner. I'm gonna try and point it that way so the light doesn't like blind you. But I actually watched this movie like right before filming it, and I cried, just like I cried while reading the book. But pretty much, if you don't know what The Maze Runner is, it's a bunch of teenage boys in the middle of a maze, and they get a teenage girl, and everything goes berserk, and then they have to try and escape the maze. One of the guys is crazy, and he still doesn't die. I'm just saying, if Gally doesn't die, I'm gonna like sue James Dashner. So the next 2 books are the first 2 books, I guess, in a trilogy. Also, most sequels are on that shelf right there. But it's always the 3rd book to this trilogy of Where to All the Boys Loved Before. I've always called it the Laura Jean trilogy, just because that's kind of like who it's about. Because I think To All the Boys Loved Before is just kind of like long. But again, if you don't know what this is about, Laura Jean is the main character. Her sister goes to college in Scotland. her letters get out. She gets a ton of love interests, and I still think John Ambrose McLaren is the best one. That's just me. The second book kind of follows her and Peter. I think the first book was better than the second, but again, that's just me. Anyway, not the last book, I guess, but the last physical book I'm going to be talking about is Rise to the Isle of the Lost by Melissa de la Cruz. This is the second book in the Isle of the Lost series. I don't know if I mentioned this in like the first book and like the last one, but I did actually just put this book like onto my TBR like maybe a week before the end of the month, and I read this in about a day. This is my favorite series, my now third favorite character to ever exist, written or on television, is one of the characters in this book. There are, I believe, 4 books in this specific series, and I think that there are like in between books, like based off of the movies, just to kind of like fill it in. But this specific book series, I'm not going to talk about this one because one, that'll ruin the movie and that'll ruin the books. But this specific series is about 4 villains and 1 prince or king. There's Mal, Maleficent's daughter. There's Evie, the Evil Queen's daughter, who's my personal favorite character in the entire thing. There's Carlos, who's Cruella de Vil's son, and then Jay, who's Jafar's son, and then Ben, who is Beauty and Beast, their kid. And it pretty much just follows Ben wanting them to be a part of the Isle of the Lost and becoming king, and the villains trying to fit in, even though any place they are, they just stand out. Because on the Isle, Mal was like this queen and Jay was like her king, even though like they didn't like each other because there are no friends on the Isle. But like they were the closest things to it that you could probably find other than Evie and Carlos. Anyway, and then so Evie was like banned from the Isle for about 6 years before she was brought back into school, and Carlos was like the shy outcast who was super smart and super kind and easily manipulated, and they teamed together to find, or to go on a journey. I don't know if it mentions it or not, but they go on a journey together and they all become super close, and then they go to the Isle and they get even closer, and just a whole bunch of things happen. And I think the movies are good if you like cheesy little kid movies with a great soundtrack. But I think the books are just so good. I love the adventures. I love how she incorporates the Isle into all of this, and it's pretty fascinating, like looking at something from like not the villain's point of view, but like their children's, you know, because you get 5 different point of views pretty much, even though it's all written in third person, and then you can like, by like the conversation, you can see kind of how the other villains' kids, because there's like Ursula's kid, there's Captain Hook's kid, there's Lady Tremaine's granddaughter. I mean, there are a couple other people that I just don't remember. The Mad Hatter, I think. This is a really good book series, and I definitely recommend. And the last book, it was an audiobook, and I read or listened to Call Me By Your Name by Andre something or another. I'm giving you full permission to slap me for not remembering that his name is Andre Ossiman. And I still probably said it wrong. I'm not going to pronounce his name because I'm going to butcher it. But that was like, it's not that I liked the book, but like, if there was a sound version of aesthetic, that's what it would be. Yes. Anyway, in total, I read 17 books. I will come back and I'll probably do like statistics because I think that's cool. Insert Timothy Chalamet going statistics. But I will do that and I will be back in like 5 seconds. Okay, so I counted everything and I have 10 female authors and 7 male authors, which is insane. I didn't realize I read so many by female authors. But I have in total I read 3 collector's book, 1 poetry book, 8 contemporary books, then 3 fantasy and 2 sci-fi. So obviously I need to kind of break out of that contemporary a little bit. But on my TBR, I have classics, I have contemporary, I have sci-fi, fantasy, all of these things. So I'm super excited. Obviously, you guys saw my TBR. I'm pretty sure that was like so heavily in fantasy and sci-fi, but I'm not 100% sure actually, because I don't remember any of them. I just know that they're over there. But yeah, that is all for today's video. Stay safe. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below. All my social media will also be down below, and I will see you next time, whenever that may be. Bye.